Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Missing Frames. This is the podcast where we watch all the movies we should have seen by this point in our lives. I'm your host, Shawn Eastridge. We're hanging out on the Nerd Party Network, a collection of podcasts dedicated to bringing you all things entertainment. Check it out at thenerdparty.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at Join Nerd Party and on Facebook and Instagram just at The Nerd Party. And my guest host today is a dear friend of mine who I actually have not spoken to, and I believe we decided it's been 10, 12 years?
At least 10 to 12 years, yeah.
Which is insane. This is literally the first time we've communicated face-to-face with each other since then. This is my dear friend, Lenny Walsh. How are you doing, Lenny? Welcome to the show.
I'm good. I'm pretty excited.
I can feel the excitement radiating from you. That's why this is happening. This is really just an excuse for us to reunite. So we went to film school together, and that's how we met. That's how we know each other. And like I said, it's been many ages, many moons since we last spoke.
And on campus, our rooms were like across the hall or just down the hall from each other.
And it's just, I know it's been many a sleepless night since we last saw each other. And now you can rest easy, young prince. You can feel at ease and fulfilled once again.
I'm no longer worried.
That's right. But we are going to be watching a film that you have never seen, and you are an insanely talented cinematographer, camera operator. Like, you are into this. So it's crazy when you came to me and said, I have not seen this. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be great. And we're watching Martin Scorsese's, some would say, magnum opus, Raging Bull. A film you've not seen before.
Yeah, I can't believe I haven't seen it. Like you said, it's one of those films that you have to see, and I haven't seen it. So, but I've heard it's amazing. Like, I know it's supposed to be really good, and the cinematography is supposed to be incredible, like groundbreaking and things like that. But
are you a big Scorsese guy?
Yeah, I loved The Departed, and all his other gangster movies are always great. So
yeah. Like Goodfellas and
Taxi
Driver and all these things.
Yeah. I recently watched Taxi Driver again, semi-recently, and it's such a good movie.
So same DP. This is Michael Chapman, who I believe, I don't know, I'm sure he's worked with him on many films. Like, Chapman did Taxi Driver, he did this one, and I'm sure, I don't have the list in front of me, but...
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't realize. Yeah, I'm actually really bad at keeping track of cinematographers and what they've done.
Ironically. But, like, let's see. So he shot Taxi Driver, Last Waltz. Oh, he shot Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 70s one,
interesting.
Directed by Philip Kaufman.
Yeah.
And he did this, and he shot Paul Schrader, who wrote this film and would go on to write and direct First Reformed, amongst other things. He shot his feature directorial debut, Hardcore, which was an interesting movie. He shot Scrooged.
Really?
Richard Donner. There you
Interesting.
go. And he shot the Bad music video, which was directed by Martin Scorsese, Michael Jackson. So not every Scorsese movie, but
yeah.
I mean, Taxi Driver and Raging Bull are two of the big ones, if not the biggest ones.
Yeah, I would say those are probably two of the biggest.
I did an episode on Taxi Driver. I think that's the only other Scorsese movie I've done on Missing Frames, with my buddy Alex Calleros with the Lessons from the Screenplay team. And he and I were discussing, we're very much on the same page when it comes to Scorsese movies, which is Scorsese is a filmmaker who I fully admit and agree is one of the best ever. Like, he's a legend. He's awesome.
Definitely.
But for the most part, I haven't connected with a lot of his films. Like, there aren't, like, I love Taxi Driver and I love Hugo, which is like not, I don't think that's anyone's go-to choice for favorite Scorsese movie, except for me. I think I may be the only person, but that's kind of how I've always admired his films more than I've really loved them. And Raging Bull is a film I saw actually while we were in film school, and it's one that I've seen a couple times since. It's been a while since my last viewing of it, and like a lot of Scorsese films, it's a movie that I've always admired more than I've really embraced personally. And I don't know what it is. I feel like Scorsese's movies, because they're such amazing technical achievements.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, technically, they're really good technically. The way that he shoots them, the angles and the shots, they're incredible. But yeah, I think emotionally, on an emotional level, it's very different.
Sometimes it's a little cold. Like sometimes I
Yeah.
think maybe the characters, because he's less interested, I think, in I don't know. He doesn't really care if you like or dislike the characters. He's just like, here
Hmm.
they are. That's what they do, and
Yeah.
you can deal with it. And sometimes
Hmm.
the characters are pretty despicable. And as a person who wants to feel invested in the characters, I think that's why I like Taxi Driver so much. Why it's maybe my favorite of his films is because we really get into Travis Bickle's head, and you really,
Yeah.
even if you don't agree with him, you empathize with him. And I don't know necessarily that that's always the case with Scorsese movies. And it's funny because Paul Schrader wrote that and he wrote this.
Hmm.
And I'm curious to see if my opinion will change this time around. I don't know. This kind of falls into the category of like, you know how you, like everyone is like, oh my god, these are the movies that you have to love as a film fan. This is
Hmm.
one of those where it's like, this is an exception where I give myself a I've never really loved Vertigo, and Raging Bull I've never really embraced either. This is one of those where I'm like, just give me a couple of passes to not fully embrace these particular classics. But are there any that like you're supposed to love that you don't? Not
Like,
necessarily
just,
Scorsese, but just
yeah.
classic films.
I mean, there's some that it's other movies I haven't seen. Like, I've never seen The Sound of Music. It's like that's like one of the big
Definitely
ones.
same genre, very
Yeah.
much
And it's
very
like,
Scorsese
like,
inspired.
haven't seen it. It's supposed to be one that everybody loves, and
Hmm.
but I will say, like, everyone loved Avatar when it came out, and I didn't
Yeah.
see it for a very long time, and I finally watched it, but I was like, I just never got why it was such a big.
I
I never
think
got the
uh, I
hype
think
around that movie.
I think everyone, maybe less than a year after that movie came out, agreed with you 100%. Like
Yeah,
everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is the best thing ever!" And then by the end of the year, they were like, "Oh, that's right, I forgot that movie exists." And now we're getting 4 or 5 more Avatar movies.
yeah,
So
they've been working on the
just
new
like,
one for forever.
yeah, just like we've always wanted, just like Scorsese's always wanted. I think he is the one pioneering and really campaigning for as many Avatar sequels as James Cameron will
And Marvel, he
can churn
loves
out.
Marvel. I know he
Oh, he
wants more
loves
Marvel
Marvel.
movies.
That's the best. So, I yeah, I am very very excited to watch it again. I'm very excited to get your thoughts on it, just as like, again, somebody who is a cinematographer, and this is a passion of yours. This is your like trade. How did you get into it? I don't know if we ever talked about it, like, because in film school, like, you have a lot of people like me who are, oh, I want to be a director, I want to write, I want to do that stuff. But you were immediately, you homed in on, oh, no, I'm going to do this. I want to, like, cinematography, camera work. Like, what inspired that? What made you interested in that particular field?
Yeah, I think I knew pretty early on that I wanted to do cinematography. I originally went to school for 3D animation, and I was there my first semester there. They had just started their undergrad 3D animation program, and I did that first semester, and I liked it, but I didn't want to be behind the computer all the time. And in high school, I really loved photography, and I've always been a very visual person. And so when the school started their undergrad film program, I immediately switched and just like went all in on shooting people's projects as much as I could. I don't know, just I've always been really into it, and lighting and moving the camera and finding the angles and composition, and I don't know, just everything about cinematography really interested me. And so I knew pretty quick that that's what I wanted to do.
What do you think the biggest misconception is about it? Like, as far as like things that people don't really know about cinematography that you've learned in the years you've been doing this?
It's not just about making pretty pictures. Um, you really have to aid and tell the story with your imagery, with your visuals, with the camera moves. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, this is a really cool shot, we should do it. It's like, well, why should we do it? What's motivating this camera move other than it just being a really cool shot? And I think that's even more today. It's becoming like people are just doing really cool shots. Like people
Yeah,
on TikTok and YouTube, they're doing these really cool little things. Like they're cool shots, but like when it comes to filmmaking, that doesn't do anything. You
right.
have to you still have to tell a story visually.
I
So,
think Scorsese's really great at that. Like, I think that's again why he's been so heralded and so hailed, because he,
mm-hmm.
in particular, and Raging Bull has some. I don't want to go too much into it, and we'll discuss it obviously once you have seen the movie. But like, there's a lot of really cool montage stuff, and the way he films it, and shutter speed, and like it very interesting. And he's like, I think he does this in a lot of his films where he'll kind of suddenly increase or decrease the shutter speed and the speed of the film, and
Yeah.
like he'll crank it up a little bit. And I've always admired that. And again, I think I admire the craft, and I admire him as just a brilliant human being. And I think Raging Bull is a dilemma for me because again, I find myself a little detached emotionally from the story. And I'm curious to see if you feel invested in it, if this time around, again, it's been a few years since I've seen it, and I wonder if it'll be like an amazing revelation this time around, as I always do when I'm revisiting classic films that I haven't quite clicked with, because that can happen too.
Yeah, yeah.
But
You can, on a rewatch, you can be like, "Oh, it just didn't click before, but now I get
right,
it." And, yeah,
exactly. So but again, I've seen this a few times. I feel like I'm pretty settled as far as my opinion goes, but you never know. So I would ask you this: do you know anything about Raging Bull? Like, do you know what it's about? Do you know like what's the deal? And also, like, is it just like never gotten around to seeing it because it was just never opportunity never presented itself, or
yeah, yeah. I mean, I know it's just a boxing movie. I don't know anything about the characters or the story. I just know there's boxing involved, um, and I have heard like really cool technical things about how they shot the boxing scenes. But yeah, I don't really know much of anything about the story, and I never watched it because it's not one of those movies that's like readily available. It's not like on any streaming platforms that I've noticed, and it just kind of like fell to the wayside because of that, I guess. And it's it was never like
that
really
is
shown
really
on
super
TV or
weird
anything like
considering what
that.
it is.
Yeah, so I just never really like got around to it, and like I have like almost all the streaming services, and it's never been on there, at least that not that I've really noticed, or maybe it was and I just never got around to it. But I just it was never a movie that I like searched for and like, oh, I have to watch this movie.
I would love to hear. Do you want to take just like a real quick, like beat for beat? Tell me what happens in this movie? It's about boxing, so it's about a boxer. What happens to the boxer?
I'm
What are we
guessing
witnessing?
what the story is.
Yeah, guess what the story. I want to hear Lenny Walsh's interpretation. Predictions for Raging Bull. What will happen in this movie? Someone will get punched. We know
Yeah,
that much.
I'm sure there's a lot of punching, a lot of bloody faces. Uh, I'm sure he's the underdog. I'm sure.
Okay.
Nobody knows who he is. He trains really hard. Hopefully, there's not like a Rocky moment. I'm sure there's some kind of montage of him fighting, getting ready for the match or something. But
Right.
and then he either, obviously it's 50-50. He either wins the big fight or he loses it. And I feel like he could probably lose the fight.
Yeah, Scorsese doesn't pull
Scorsese's all
punches, no
about
pun
the
intended.
downward emotion.
Right.
So he probably ends up losing the big fight, but learns some valuable lesson or something afterwards. Who knows? Or maybe not. It's Scorsese. He's not about learning valuable lessons or
That's
anything
right.
like that.
This is
So it
not
could be just
Rocky.
like he
This
loses
is definitely...
and then he just like his life just tanks right after. Who knows?
Who knows? I mean, this is certainly a worthwhile guess. Lots of ideas here. We'll have to wait and see if they pan out. So let's go ahead. We'll take a break. We will watch Raging Bull, and then we will return to discuss it. So stay tuned.
Now available to own on video cassette.
And we're back. Lenny, how do you feel about Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull? Is it all it's cracked up to be?
I don't know. I think technically, yes. I think so. Like visually and technically.
I think a lot of people look, okay. I'm just going to go on the record here, just prefacing this entire conversation. I understand Raging Bull's place in the annals of cinema. I understand people love it. I understand people think it's a masterpiece. This film is number 4 on the American Film Institute's top 100 films,
Really?
which seems
that seems a little high,
even
that
for people
high.
who enjoy this movie. So let me preface this by saying, as I did in part 1, this is going to be a blasphemous episode as far as how I feel about it. So if you are a Raging Bull fan and you can't stand anybody disagreeing with the opinion that it is a masterpiece, and it's a film I respect again, but your reaction, the reason I'm going off on this rambling monologue is because I still don't particularly enjoy this movie. I like it, and technically I appreciate it. And I think I learned, reading into it a little bit more in its history, I learned a little bit more about the film that creates more context that is super fascinating. But the movie itself, I don't find particularly enjoyable. And I think it all comes down to Jake LaMotta himself. But like, is that kind of what you were getting
100%.
at?
Yeah. I was like halfway through the movie. I was like, oh, this is a 2-hour movie. I don't want to watch the rest of this, but I have to. I like the character. Like, I don't give two shits about the character. He's an asshole, misogynist, like all of those stuff. And it's like a womanizer, a wife beater. Like, why am I watching this?
And it's funny because there's no hiding it. Like Scorsese's great at this. Like Scorsese, more than I think a lot of mainstream filmmakers, especially in this day and age, is willing to just clear-eyed look at somebody without providing any means of sympathy. Like he's just kind of like, well, that's how it is. Like even more recent with Wolf of Wall Street, which is a movie that offended a lot of people.
I love that
think
movie.
Wolf of Wall Street, I like that more than Raging Bull, honestly.
Oh, totally. 100%.
But I think like Raging Bull, Wolf of Wall Street basically is like, look, we make no apologies for this. We're not condemning it. We're not promoting it, but we are just portraying it. Yeah. And I think what's interesting about Raging Bull is from the get-go. So the first scene we get with Jake, that's not, obviously we get kind of a shocking opening with him, Robert De Niro, who gained 60 pounds. Like that's not a fat suit.
Yeah, I was like, dang, that's crazy. He actually gained that weight. Yeah, I was very impressed.
It's insane. And so we open and it's a bit shocking. It's like, okay, is that Robert De Niro? Who is this?
Yeah, at first I wasn't sure.
I was going to ask you, was that kind of like, because, when you predicted the movie, your plot prediction was a little bit more kind of like a Rocky thing where it's he's got to win the big fight. He's got to win the love of his life, which this movie is like anti-Rocky in every conceivable way.
Yeah. And after we finished the first section of the podcast, I was like, oh, I should have said that he's going to be told to throw the fight. Because I was like, that's every boxing movie that he has to throw the fight. I knew that was going to happen.
And he does. And your prediction, like, in some ways you were right. But I think in terms of like, I think when I first saw Raging Bull, that was what I thought it was going to be too. And I was really turned off by it because I found it so unempathetic. But the movie doesn't try to make Jake LaMotta empathetic at all. From the get-go, it's like the first scene of him in a domestic setting. It's just him screaming at his wife, telling his brother to punch him, like being like, yeah, I'm a tough guy. And I just like, I think my second viewing of the film, I'd seen a couple more Scorsese movies and I'd seen Taxi Driver at that point. Like, I think I want to say I saw The Departed first, then I saw Raging Bull, and I didn't particularly like either of them. And then I saw Mean Streets, and I didn't love that either. And then I saw Taxi Driver, and Taxi Driver I love. That's my favorite. That and Hugo are my two favorite Scorsese movies. But I think it gave me a little bit more of an appreciation once I'd seen Taxi Driver and kind of clicked with Scorsese going back to Raging Bull. But even then, I think I still struggled with a film about a character who is so just incredibly unlikable and unsympathetic, but it's clearly the intention of the filmmaker.
Yeah. And like the women are the only like characters with morals, but not even all the women are. It's like the brother, he's just the same as Jake,
Yeah.
Like, they're no different except, maybe his brother doesn't beat his wife, but we don't know. He probably does.
And we also don't know, like, truthfully, I mean, Jake's just like awful, and he's jealous, and he's paranoid, and he doesn't think straight. But the truth is, we don't know if Joey, like, there's no confirmation that his wife and Joey didn't have.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing. I was like, she never really, she says it to make him mad, but we don't know if she really did or didn't, you know?
Right. So it's all these really, really not great people in a 2-hour movie centered around a person who is, by all intents and purposes, an awful human being. It's funny. Yeah. And what's crazy is that Jake LaMotta was not only alive when the film came out, but the film is based on his autobiography. And he was also a consultant on the film. So he was involved. He trained De Niro, and he helped out, and he was a consultant for the film. Apparently he saw the movie and he asked Vicky, his real wife, he turned to her and he said, "Was I really that bad?" And she looked at him and said, "No, you were worse." And I'm just like, what is this? But that was something that when the film came out, I didn't realize the film, when it was initially released, didn't receive a great reception. Like, and this happens a lot with classic, like, films that have since gone on to be hailed as masterpieces. Right. There are many, many films where when they were first released, they were kind of like, I didn't realize Raging Bull was one of them, but it was. And that was a major criticism, is the movie's very violent, it's very vulgar, and it's centered around a protagonist that is extremely unlikable. But I wonder, like, what do you think it is about this film that, like, has captured that, like, people's attention in this way that they are so willing to go back and reevaluate it?
I mean, it's shot in black and white, so that's already like something that's not normal. You know, the film was made in 1980, so it was released in 1980,
and the big boxing movies at the time, and produced by the same guys, by the way, were the Rocky movies, and those were in color. Those are. The fights are all shot outside the ring. So this film, like you said, black and white, and fights are mostly shot inside the ring. The characters.
Yeah, yeah. And the way they shot it, they do like a lot of slow-mo, which is kind of cool. And I love the snapshot moments where it's like the photographers, and it's like you get it's just a couple frames of the snapshot that they just took. I love that. It's really cool. You don't really see that even today.
It's slower paced than I think you expect from, like, a big sports movie. Because I think sports movies, not that they all have to be rousing, but I think the perception is that they are kind of like, sports movies are inspirational and rousing, which are words that I would not use to describe Raging Bull at all. Like, and it's not really a sports movie.
Yeah, it's not. It's like boxing is kind of like the side of this movie. You know, it's more about, I think, like, outside his life.
Yeah, altogether, I think there's 9 to 10 minutes of actual boxing.
Yeah, there's no like one big fight, at the end where he has to, like, there is a title fight, but it's like, it's still very short.
Yeah, it's almost tossed off. Like, the fights don't matter. Like, the fights are almost incidental in a way.
Yeah, because he's obviously fighting and winning, so he's making money. So there's no, like, financial struggle. It's just basically the struggle is his paranoia and his jealousy and stuff like that. And, like, he's just, somebody will say one thing that's meaningless, and he's like, well, what did you mean by that? And he won't let it go. And you're just like, bro, like, just move on, dude. Like, what are you? He just will not let it go. And it's something that literally means nothing. And he just keeps going.
And I've really tried, and I've thought about this a lot. And, I was wondering this time, I haven't seen it for, I want to say maybe 8 years or so. It's been a long time since my last viewing. So I was curious to see, there are films that I've watched and disliked that I've revisited years down the line and have been like, oh my God, not only do I love that, that's one of my favorite movies. What was I thinking? And I was wondering if Raging Bull would be something like that. And it's not. But I think my biggest problem with it, and I was really trying to break it down. I was like, what is it about this movie that I just can't connect with? I know on the surface level, I just don't like Jake LaMotta. Like, I just don't find him a character I can empathize with. And that's a huge problem. And if you compare it to, let's just say, Taxi Driver, which was, also Scorsese, also De Niro, also written by Paul Schrader. Taxi Driver follows a pretty uh, I want to say like not awful, but not a good person.
Yeah.
Like Travis Bickle is not a good person. He's
Yeah.
not somebody you want to relate to, but he's a character you can empathize with because we are so inside his head and we can understand why he is the way he is, even if we don't agree with what he's doing.
Right.
And I think the difference between a film like Taxi Driver or a film like The Godfather, where we see a good man transform into an evil man over the
Yeah.
course of the film, and we also have a very rich cast of supporting characters. We have all these amazing ideas in the film about, like, you know, the passing of the torch to a new generation and the quote unquote romantic idea of crime disintegrating in America and all these great themes surrounding it. But even that presents a compelling character and a compelling character arc. And we see Michael go on a journey and we understand what he's going through. And I think the main problem with my main problem with Raging Bull is that, okay, fine. Jake LaMotta is not supposed to be a person that we like or agree with. But I think Travis is interesting. I think Michael Corleone is interesting. I don't think Jake LaMotta is interesting. And you brought up the exact reason why. It's because everything he does in this film is obvious and repetitive. Like everything is what are you talking to that guy for? What do you think you do? And it's all like meathead, egotistical.
It's like, oh, he has a pretty face. What does that mean? You like him? And then like it just changes his whole view of his wife from that moment because she randomly said he's got a pretty face. He's like, what does that mean? And he's like to the brother, like, keep an eye on her, you know. And it just sets in motion the rest of their relationship.
And I get that we're supposed to watch this guy, like he kind of gets his comeuppance, and it's I mean, the film is ultimately a kind of a tragedy. I was watching Scorsese's commentary, and he says the final scene is supposed to be like LaMotta kind of letting go of the anger and the selfishness, but he said that was the intention. He's like, I don't know if it comes across that way. I don't think it does. I feel like the film is a tragedy that shows a man who's broken and his life is he's dismantled his entire life and disconnected himself emotionally from everyone around him. But like, I don't know. There's no arc there. Like it's predictable. Like it's like when we watch this guy's downfall, it's like you said, it's very much tonally like there's no, I don't know, there's no ebb and flow to it. It's just kind of one stretch of this guy just being awful. And then when terrible things happen to people, like you're kind of like, well, of course they did. This guy's a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think something that really bothered me in the beginning I was like, oh man, this is going to be a lot of the movie, was when he first meets Vicky. It's like, she's 15 years old and you're like, and then and he takes her like on to play mini golf and then back to his house when his wife's not there. And you're like, what the is going on? This is so crazy. Like I'm watching this guy seduce this 15-year-old girl.
And I get it's the 40s, like things were different then, but it doesn't make, it's, again, I admire Scorsese's just like clear-eyed presenting things as they are, like 100%. But it's very hard to know, like, am I supposed to be rooting for this? Am I supposed to be like interested in this romance? Like, and that's exactly it. And I never feel like the film ever gives me any kind of glimpse into, like, maybe some people think that's why it's a brilliant film, is that it doesn't tell you what to think. And it's like, to a certain extent, I don't want to be so manipulated, but to a certain extent, I do want to feel like I can understand why things are going on and what these people are thinking, instead of just kind of just being presented with these characters who are relatively shallow in their interests and motivations. And then those interests and motivations don't really change. And that's not to speak to the performances, which are all incredible.
Yeah, the performances are great. Yeah.
If you look at everything, again, on a technical level, whether it's performance or cinematography or editing, like everything about the film is amazing, except for me, the script and the characters. And that totally, is what breaks it for me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they're very shallow. Like even Vicky, she's very shallow. Like she's just a girl and she like is naive in the beginning, but then she's just, gets mad at and resentful of him because he won't sleep with her because he doesn't like to have sex before a fight. And so it's like, so
Right.
now she's like, well, I want to go out. I still want to have fun. I want to do stuff. So it's like her needs are very basic. Her wants and needs are very basic.
Yeah, and I again, like, it's having to spend 2 hours with these characters and not really going anywhere. And the interesting relationship, and I think for many people it would be the kind of the central relationship of the film. I don't know if you'd say LaMotta's relationship with boxing, but certainly his relationship with his brother, which to me is the
Right.
only really compelling part of the movie.
Yeah, I would say
outside of the technical stuff, like the filmmaking.
Yeah, their
side of it.
relationship is definitely like the main relationship in the film.
And this is Joe Pesci. This is his first film, I think, or the first big thing he did. Like, he was essentially discovered for this movie. Yeah.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the whole thing was De Niro. De Niro was the one who wanted to do the book. And so De Niro was the star attached to it, and his star power. And once Scorsese got involved, it was kind of like, okay, great. And then they wanted to surround him with unknowns. So the woman who plays Vicky, Kathy Moriarty, she was, I think, 18 at the time, and she looks so much older.
Yeah, that was another thing. I was like, this girl's supposed to be 15 years old. She looks like she's almost 30.
she was only a few years older than 15, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
So she was actually 18 years old. And then Joe Pesci had like, he'd seen her at like a club or something, and like her picture he got a picture from her, brought it to Scorsese. She never acted before, and like they were like, yeah, bring her in. And she's great, and Pesci is great. But De Niro was the one who really like latched on to this book by Jake LaMotta and was like, we got to do this. And Scorsese, this is the interesting stuff, the behind the scenes stuff that I actually, for years and years, I had no clue about any of this, and I was just reading about it. But here's what happened. So the film, obviously it was released in 1980. So at the time, Scorsese was coming off a couple of box office duds. Like his last film, I think The Last Waltz was the film he made right before this. But The Last Waltz, I think, did pretty well. But New York was the film that's referenced a lot, which it was, Robert De Niro was in that. It didn't do well financially. And Scorsese had gotten to the point where he thought like his career was taking a nosedive. Like, he thought it was over. And he very nearly OD'd, I think, on cocaine. Like, he almost died. Wow. And De Niro had been kind of not hassling him, but really pushing. He's like for years, he'd been like, we should do this Raging Bull movie. We should do it. And Scorsese was like, I don't like boxing. I don't connect. Like, I can't connect to this world. I just don't get it. I don't think I'm going to be good for it. And when he was in the hospital, finally, De Niro was kind of like, look, do you want to do this or not? And it kind of just, Scorsese sort of clicked and was like, okay, I think I can understand the material. But Scorsese made Raging Bull with a lot of love, a lot of attention to his craft, because he legitimately thought this was going to be his
last movie.
Because he thought his career was over. He was like, I guess I'm going to like go overseas, go to Europe and make some small indie movies that nobody is going to watch for the rest of my life. And Raging Bull, he considered like, he's like, this is going to be it for me. And watching it from that context, like going back and rewatching it from the sense of like a broken filmmaker thinking like, I'm just going to put everything I've got into this final thing, certainly helps for me. It makes it more interesting when you understand the subtext of the filmmaker behind. There's certain films where it's like the film itself should stand on its own. Like, you shouldn't have to say like, oh, well, here's why, but certainly that can enrich the film. And I think in this case, for sure, to watch the film from the perspective of a filmmaker who felt they were at the end of their rope and didn't have a career ahead of them. You kind of watch Raging Bull and you're like, okay, I'm starting to see some parallels here. I'm starting to see where some of this anger was coming from. Maybe some of this, like, just almost the coldness and the straightforward, like, we're not going to judge this guy. We're not going to celebrate. We're not going to do any, the stuff Scorsese is known for, but you get this feeling of like, you understand, and especially where LaMotta ends up by the end of the film, you see how Scorsese was maybe thinking like, oh, this may be where I end up, like on a stage in front of like 10 people doing awful jokes and performances.
Yeah, you can definitely see this movie influences his his gangster movies, because the way that these characters act in Raging Bull is like you could like take them straight and put them into like his other like Casino or whatever or
Yeah. Goodfellas.
yeah, Goodfellas. It's like that's those. These are the characters. They're the exact same.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is the, I mean, this film basically, the irony is that it restarted his career. Like
Yeah.
the film, his career didn't end, even though the film wasn't a major success. Like it did moderately well at the box office. And like I said, didn't have a great critical reception, but it did get nominated for a lot of Oscars. De Niro won for Best Actor. It won for Best Editing. And there was some poll that said this film has the best, it was like voted as the best edited film of all time, which again is something I don't know if I agree with, but I certainly think the editing in this film is fantastic.
It is, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, but those are the only 2 Oscars it won, and it's funny. I mean, again, the film is so beloved now, and so many people would rank it so highly. It's just kind of funny that this happens constantly. And the other film I think about is, of course, Vertigo, Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, which is another film I don't necessarily connect with.
Right.
And they're very similar. And I wanted to ask you this, what you think about this, because this is super interesting. And I think it speaks more to like the critical community, like people who love film snobs, film scholars, film critics. It speaks more about that demographic as a whole than it does maybe about the films on these lists and rankings.
Yeah.
But I find it so, okay. So like, you know, if I were to look at the AFI's top 100 movies, I'm typing it in because I can't remember off the top of my head what they are. Okay. So number 1, Citizen Kane. Number 2, The Godfather. Number 3, Casablanca. Number 4, Raging Bull. And then Singing in the Rain, Gone with the Wind, Lawrence of Arabia, Schindler's List. Vertigo is number 9.
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz. So of the top 10 films for American Film Institute, almost half of them center around a male protagonist who experiences a fall from grace, but is kind of an awful person.
Right.
And what I want to ask you is like, particularly, I think Vertigo and Raging Bull and Citizen Kane to a lesser extent, because I don't think Charles Foster Kane is as unlikable as the main character in Vertigo, or definitely not as unlikable as Jake LaMotta, but these are all characters that are relatively like kind of cruel men in power who kind of manipulate the women in their lives. And there's something so interesting to me that these films consistently find their way to the top of like the greatest films ever list. And I was just, I was like, does this speak to kind of the ego of like, you know, I think your stereotypical film critic is probably a male, probably a white male, like who has experienced maybe some semblance of similar like egoism or like unhealthy relationships, things like that.
Totally.
It just occurred to me, and I was like, because I find Raging Bull to be kind of such a hard film to really truly engage with and enjoy. It just occurred, like it just made me look again and reevaluate and say like, what is it about this particular kind of film with this particular kind of protagonist that the film community latches on to? Is it just that we enjoy these stories about like powerful men who fail?
Maybe it's being at the top and then falling down, because it's a very strong movie trope of like being on top and then falling from grace and then having to like work your way back up. I mean, it's even like Anchorman. You know what I mean? It's like he's the number one news guy.
I love that you've referenced you reference Avatar and Anchorman, both movies that start with A that are 100% film classics by anyone's standard.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. You know, like he's the white male at the top of the news.
Yeah,
and then he falls, you know, from grace, and then he has to like work his way back up. You know, it's like I guess there's just, you know, that's people love that in the film industry, because like, you know, unfortunately the film industry is dominated by white men, so it's like, of course, you know, that it makes sense that on the list movies like that
there is something there's certainly something maybe not satisfying but like fitting about I don't know, I was watching interviews with people talking about Raging Bull and just like, oh, you know, you really sympathize with LaMotta, you know, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
But like, I think you certainly feel this is a you feel pity for him by the end of the film. I think especially when he's in the jail cell,
Right.
And he's beating the wall, and banging his head against the wall. You certainly feel like, oh God, this
I don't
guy's
know that I
really.
did. Like I know
Yeah.
I knew that's what Scorsese was going for in that moment. That like he realized that like he fucked his life up and that he was a bad person and he did all these terrible things. But in my mind, I was like, I don't feel sorry for you. Like you deserve every single bit of this. Like I know Scorsese wanted you to feel bad for him and to maybe pity him, but I couldn't. I just really couldn't. I was like, this is what you get, you know.
And I would even, maybe that was the intention. Like I could,
Maybe it
because
was,
again,
yeah.
I don't know that Scorsese necessarily is so. I mean, obviously any filmmaker is, any director is manipulating you in some way or another. Like they are choosing to show you certain moments because they want you to feel a certain way. But there's always a vibe with Scorsese, like I was saying, where he very plainly looks at these things. And it's kind of like, you be the judge here. Like, does he deserve it? Does he not deserve it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree with you. And I think that's the problem, is it's very hard to, in that moment, I feel pity for him. In other moments, I feel kind of sad for him, but I never, ever felt like, what a shame. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what is, to me, the ultimate weakness of the movie, is that I don't feel a sense of regret or sadness. I just feel kind of like gross. Like I feel kind of like, this is just a sad
because it wasn't like he like made a mistake. Like he's just a terrible person and chooses to be a terrible person.
Yeah,
you know, and like it
so
wasn't
when he
like
ends up there
like,
again, it's inevitable. It's like it's not surprising.
Yeah, like it will catch up to you, and it's like, like it could, I don't feel bad for him because it wasn't some like mistake that like, oh, if he had only just did this instead, you know, it was like, you know, his behavior was the same the whole way through his life to that moment.
Atrocious. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there's one scene that I noticed that I picked up on something that I guess I hadn't before, but I think they imply with the Sugar Ray Robinson fight, the last one where the Valentine's Day Massacre, where he gets beaten to a bloody pulp.
Yeah, I was like, what's happening here? Yeah.
I love the blood sprays are just so absurd, and when it splatters the announcers on the sideline, it's one of the funniest things. But I think there's an implication here, because that was this is a historical fight. It actually happened. I haven't seen the actual footage, but it was like a brutal like scenario. But again, LaMotta didn't get knocked down, and that was his whole thing of like, you might have beaten me up, but you didn't knock me down. But I think there's an implication that he is punishing himself for
that's kind of
the brutality he's inflicted on his brother.
I think that he was like taking like this moment as to like he deserves it and he's just going to let it happen and he's going to take it.
Yeah. So
that's
he
kind
sacrifices
of what I got from it.
Yeah. So so it's like things like that certainly are, I get that. Like I get that that's in the movie, and I get that that's again the intention. It's just, I think the one note nature of the film and the character make it hard for me to feel a strong sense of like, I don't know. It's hard for me to really get worked up and be like excited. Like, yes, what a great, powerful, emotional moment. I just feel kind of like, all right.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, you deserve this. It doesn't change anything. Like,
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the cinematography, since we've kind of beaten up the film character-wise and story-wise. What did you pick up? Things that you noticed, just as somebody who is so familiar with what it's like working behind the camera and doing this kind of stuff. What are the things, again, like the film's editing and as far as its technical reputation, its reputation overall, this is a film that's hailed for its cinematography, and it's hailed by some as one of the best shot films ever made. Were there things that stood out to you as like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they pulled that off? Or like things that you picked up on just instinctively, where you were like, oh yeah, I can see why people have latched on.
I mean, even just from the opening shot of the credits where he's really slow-mo in the ring, just like warming up.
And the flash bulbs in the background.
Yeah, and the flash bulbs as they go by in time.
That was apparently the DP, Michael Chapman, just running like in a complete black suit, just running back and forth, just flashing the bulb in different locations.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think back, because this film is in 1980, is that, to do slow-mo like that it was still all film. And so they had these giant mags, and that film was going so fast and it's so loud. It's like, and it's a long take too. So that they must have had a big mag. So I thought that was really impressive. And like I mentioned, when they do the first like photographer and they freeze frame it
Yeah.
of him in the ring, I think actually he just hit someone down. I love those. It's great. And they do it later on, and I think it's just stills.
Yeah, the frame rate, it's like they crank up the film when he knocks the guy out of the ring, and they crank it out when they push in, or crank it up when they push in on him. That's really, really cool. There's another shot that I referenced in the beginning, but it essentially what they did is they have the camera on a crane, and it goes in between the ropes, and it's outside of the ring, and then it goes inside the ring. And apparently they had to split the ropes to break apart so that the camera could get through and perform that shot.
Yeah.
But I always thought that was amazing. And I mean, just the sense of scope within the ring. And apparently they would increase the size of the ring just to like it based on certain fights. Like I think by the end of the film, the ring had become so much bigger because it had just kind of the sense of LaMotta feeling so small and just battling these giant forces. Like things like that are just so cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Again, Scorsese is a filmmaker. I can not argue with his level of pedigree. I can't argue with his reputation, and I love him. Like I think he's made some of the greatest films of all time, and it's just very hard. Like with Citizen Kane, another film that I enjoy but don't love. Like I don't personally love it.
Yeah, same. I appreciate it for what it did technically, but as a film and story, I don't care about it at all.
Yeah, and I think Raging Bull is the more extreme version of that. It's just a film that I don't feel any connection to emotionally. And there are films that are like cold and emotionally distant, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, that I find to be absolutely stunning. Like I think 2001 is one of my favorite films. It's my favorite Kubrick film, and it's a marvelous technical achievement. And I just think a film like that for Raging Bull, I don't want to like turn this into like what deserves to be ranked higher or lower and all that nonsense. But there's just a part of me that's like, clearly the problem is not that I can't it's because I don't connect with the character. I'm like, well, no, there are films that I love where there are no characters to connect to, like 2001, really. But I still love them on like a technical level and just on what they're showing. And I think I just find a film like that more impressive and hypnotic than a film about like a boxer, I guess. Like I don't mean to diminish Raging Bull to just be like, oh, it's just a film about a boxer. I know this is a beloved film, but like to a more extreme level, it's a film that where Citizen Kane, like you said, it's like, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate Raging Bull, but whereas I enjoy Citizen Kane and like can confidently put it on and show my wife and say like, yeah, Citizen Kane, the greatest movie of all time. Raging Bull, I'm a little bit more like, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't. And it just comes down to that. It's not my favorite Scorsese movie, obviously. But I would rank it even below, like, I think I like, The Departed more. I think I like Wolf of Wall Street more, as I already said. Goodfellas, probably. I'm trying to think what else I've seen.
Yeah, I really like Departed better. Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Wall
Street. It just comes down to that. I think it's just too one note, and I don't find it compelling enough to justify the length or what it's trying to do. But I love everything that went into it. I love everything that everyone behind the scenes, everyone in front of the camera, like it's a massive achievement on every level except storytelling. Which is just crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, the visuals are really, I think, really what holds it up so high. It's just the cinematography and the directing and everything. Like,
do you think you'll ever watch it again?
I was gonna say, if I do watch this movie again, it would literally just be to watch the cinematography.
Yeah,
like to like really like, because in the beginning I was like, oh, this shot is cool, this shot, but I had to like, oh no, I need to like focus in and watch this movie instead of like watch how it is technically. So I did eventually stop doing that. So do you have a favorite
I know you said you love the opening shot, but do you have like a favorite shot in the film? Like the frame, the single frame is another one. Is there another
Yeah.
one that really stood out to you?
Yeah. What?
I love get the whole him getting beaten to a bloody pulp. I think
Yeah.
that last moment where it pushes in on him just like directly looking at the camera, I think that's definitely one of my favorites, if not my favorite.
Yeah.
That whole sequence.
I like how they did some of the fighting stuff where they got the camera really in there, like especially when there's one scene where I can't remember who he's fighting, but he has them on the ropes and they're just like going at it, and like the camera's
Yeah.
just like looking up at them, and you can see both their heads and their fists as they're just like going like that. That was pretty
Yeah,
cool
there's even
shot.
I think there's a shot. It's real quick, but the glove is like on the edge of the lens. Like it's like they put the glove on the
Oh,
lens
uh-huh.
and they bring it into, so it looks like you were the glove's perspective
Yeah.
coming at the opponent. And I know what's funny about De Niro, who is in such great shape. LaMotta trained him, and LaMotta said, like, dude, this guy would legit be one of, I think, like, I don't remember what the exact quote was, but he was like one of the like top fighters.
Right.
Like, I don't remember if he said middleweight or whatever, but he was like, he's one of the best fighters. Like, he could legit be one of the top
Be a
fighters
fighter.
if he wanted to.
Yeah.
De Niro's crazy. He's
Yeah.
scary. He's somebody who now I feel like I would give him a hug, but I think
Yeah.
at this point in his career, I would not want to. I'd feel scared of him.
Yeah. I feel like, and like Joe Pesci too, like
Yeah.
they were just, that's how they were in real life. Like you would be scared to like talk to them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. So is there anything else, any final thoughts you have on Raging Bull? Anything else you want to add that you feel needs to be said
We
about this
didn't
film?
mention the music. I actually really liked the music.
Yeah, and it's not scored. Like it's not an original score. I'm trying to remember.
It seemed like it was like just some kind of classical music or something that they recorded.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up what the actual name of the song is or the music that they use. I can't find it. But yeah, it was not. For some reason, I thought it was an original score. It is not. Oh, here we go. Soundtrack: Cavalleria Rusticana by Italian composer Pietro Mascagni would be the main theme.
Yeah.
And then obviously other popular songs of that era.
What I got a question. What did you take that Bible verse at the end?
I'm going to cheat because I watched the commentary, Scorsese's commentary, and I think again Scorsese stresses that there's a lot of talk around in the behind the scenes stuff with this film where everyone is like admitting like, yeah, Jake LaMotta is a terrible person. The producers didn't want to do the film because they were like, why would you want to make a film about that guy?
Yeah.
It's one producer described him as he's a cockroach to De Niro.
Yeah.
And De Niro said, no, he isn't. And that was the end of the conversation. So there's no, like I said, there's no intent on Scorsese's part or anyone's part to say like, this is a good person. But I think what Scorsese was trying to do, or what he claims he was trying to do with the Bible verse at the end, was the idea of judge not lest ye be judged. And the idea that we all have our faults. And nobody is above anyone, no matter how low they might be as a person. I think that's what he stated his intention was behind including the verse at the end. And then he thanks his film teacher, like the film teacher that kind of got him.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, who is that? Yeah, I was curious who that was.
Yeah, so that was his film teacher that really, I think he said, like, opened the door for him to make his first films and really kicked off his career in the as a director. But I think that was Scorsese's intention with the Bible verse, was kind of a like, it's funny he didn't use the judge not lest you be judged, which I think would be a little bit too obvious. Yeah, what was the verses like?
It's he asked the blind man,
I was blind, but now I see.
Yeah,
like this man was a sinner, but something like that.
I think it's when Jesus heals the blind man, and they're asking if Jesus is a liar or whatever. He's like, well, now I was blind, but now I can see.
Yeah.
And so I think,
it
I don't
says,
know
whether or not he is a sinner, I do not know. The man replied, all I know is this: once I was blind, but now I see.
Yeah, I kind of took it as maybe Scorsese was implying that LaMotta like was seeing the error of his ways, but I was like, no, I don't think that's what he's going for. But that was my first impression.
That's it. And that's it. That's what I think really, and I didn't get that either. I just thought it was like, oh, the man's broken. But I think Scorsese's intention in the final scene is he's looking at himself in the mirror.
Right. Yeah.
He's reciting this monologue from On the Waterfront, just that, I could have been a contender, but you messed it up, or I messed it up.
Mm-hmm.
And just that self-awareness, being willing to look himself in the eye and say these things, like, even though he's quoting somebody else. I think Scorsese's intention was I'm at peace with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I like relieve myself of these feelings of anger and jealousy. Like, I think that is, and I think that's the Bible verse is meant to reflect that. So I think that's the appropriate read. I didn't get that.
That's
I mean,
what I got
back,
when I initially
it's
read
certainly interesting to, again, these things create context, and it enriches the film. And I mean, like I said, I definitely did not like the film the first time I saw it, and I watched it again and appreciated it more. But it's still, like, to this day, it's not one of my favorite films, not one of my favorite Scorsese films. And it's a film I really have again, I appreciate it, but I almost have a hard time agreeing. Like, that's one I would like argue with people. Like, does it really need to be like that well regarded? I get it being a classic, but I don't know how, like, I think it might possibly be
a little overrated, honestly.
Yeah.
But
it's a dirty,
like, if I was
it's
ever
a dirty
gonna...
word, but I think I can't help but agree. It's again, now
I think
that
it should be held in high regard, but I think it's held just a little too high.
just a little bit. Number 4, that's high.
4 is I think for sure. There's definitely way more movies that are better than that. So
yes, I agree.
But if I would only watch this movie again if I was going to shoot a boxing movie, just to get some old school influence.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
Probably the only reason I would rewatch this movie.
Yeah, and I think as the level of importance it serves in Scorsese's career, and that it kind of gave him a second wind, I think certainly gives it some level of importance as well. Like, that enriches the movie too. But I'm with you. I feel the same way. Yeah. So what do you think? Should we do final ratings?
Sure. Who do you want to go
first?
All
right. So on a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest, how many blood spattered announcers would you give Raging Bull?
That I saw that. That was probably the only comical moment where I laughed. I was like, this is a little bit much. It was like, they went a little too far with the blood there.
It's a little crazy.
I would say like a 3.5. I would say. I think if we were, I was thinking if we did 1 to 10, I would give it like a 6.
Yeah.
So I would say like a 3.5.
I'd say 3.5 is what I'd give it to. And it's a film I've seen many, many times, and I've really tried. This and Vertigo are the 2 films, more than any other beloved classic, like really acclaimed films in history. These 2 are the ones that I have a real problem connecting with. Like, I just personally don't particularly enjoy them. I like Raging Bull probably more than Vertigo.
Yeah,
but
I haven't seen Vertigo probably since we were in school, so I don't.
It's worth. I mean, it's worth watching again.
Much of it.
Yeah, I like that film. I've tried watching both of these films multiple times, and every time I'm like, maybe this time. No. By the end of it, I'm like, no, I was right the first time.
Yeah,
but now that everyone hates us, Lenny, why don't you tell the good people at home about your YouTube channel, about where they can find you on the internet, should they so desire?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel that helps people break into the film industry. It's called Filmmaker Survival on YouTube. And then I also have Instagram for it. And then if you want to follow my personal Instagram, it's LPWII.
And I am at YeShondorman on Twitter. I am ShawnDorman05 on Letterboxd. You can shout at me at all these places, as I know you want to after listening to this Raging Bull episode. But Lenny, this has been a pleasure. I'm glad I got a chance to introduce you to this film. We got another missing frame we can cross off your list.
Yeah, it's about time I watched it.
It's about time, so we did it. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We will see you at the movies.